Welcome to the Advance Your Art podcast, where we talk about the journey from artist to entrepreneur and everything in between. You've worked hard to hone your craft. Now take it to the next level with tips, techniques, strategies, and routines used by successful artists to grow their businesses and careers. Now, let's get started and have some fun with your host, Yuri Cataldo.
Good morning, Warren. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Oh, fantastic. It's great to be alive.
That's wonderful. I love it. So for the listeners who are not as familiar with who you are in your work, how do you describe yourself and what you do?
Usually I go with enigma because, that's what if I really have to narrow it down.
Yeah.
I'm a futurist. I figured out that, lots has happened in the past, and I'm not going to let it affect me.
Yeah.
And, I can't change any of it so far. I do live in the moment. I'm enjoying where I am right now, but everything else is going to happen in the future. So I like to try to live in the future and think about that, and especially with tech.
Okay.
And so that's what I do for fun.
I love it. That sounds so exciting. Okay, so futurist in tech. What does that mean in different, let's say, tech industries? Are there particular types of industries that you focus on especially, or are you more of a generalist?
Yeah. The guy who answered your question, Enigma, and you're asking me if I'm a generalist.
Yes, exactly.
I'm definitely a generalist. You have to get specific about what is going to change. You can't. The funny thing about, by the way, futurist is the title. I just assumed I was a futurist. There's no, degree in futurism.
Right.
There might be, but I'd probably find that person boring. Things are happening faster now than ever. The change is increasing. There's no reason to think change is not going to continue to increase. And so look for trends, not for predictions. I do a lot of stuff in blockchain. So the first question everybody asks is, well, what's the Bitcoin price going to be? I don't know. I haven't a clue. As you can see some trends. I'm not selling my Bitcoin, if that kind of gives you a general idea of where I'm going. It doesn't matter. I plan my business so that Bitcoin can be 5,000 or 50,000. It's going to be okay.
Right.
I read an interesting book about the history of Exxon once. I wish I could remember. I'd love to quote the title of books when I can give due credit, but it had a different title. It ended up being a lot about the history of Exxon. Very long book. I thought I was crazy when I started it, because I've never been an Exxon fan. But in it, I just kept getting this feeling that these guys have to plan decades in advance. So politics doesn't matter.
Right.
What's on the TV about who said what is which side do you take on the what? Sometimes you just go like, there's no sides. There's just crazy people on both sides yelling at each other, but it doesn't really matter. And it's the same as like when you play in the Super Bowl. If your team is against mine in the Super Bowl, we're enemies and we're screaming at each other and we both know what we want. There are many millions of dollars at stake at the outcome of that game. And then Monday we go back to work and just go on with life.
Right.
And that's the way we should look at all of this stuff that's current events. Anything that the talking heads are talking about, blabbing about on TV, it's just what did Don Henley say? The bubble-headed bleach blondes. There's that Don Fry, the eagle. Yeah. The people on TV just saying stuff. Who cares? Now it's not that I don't pay attention to it, because I find current Washington politics to be educational in some ways, but I don't get emotional about it. Totally don't. It's whatever they do is not really going to change my life. And if you're waiting for, a new program to come from the government, or you get your monthly check, or whatever your relationship is with the powers that be. More power to you. Go right ahead, but let's try not to focus on that, because you're not going to really be able to change very much. And yeah, go protest for your cause, do whatever, that's fine, but vote, but don't think about that as the future. It's
Right.
4 more years, or we've got to change, or whatever is going to keep things the same. Boy, I don't think I've ever rambled on about politics that much, but because sincerely, I'm bringing it up just. I guess I kind of like the idea now that I'm talking about it. I really am apolitical. That I don't care that it's going to bring up some triggers, because that's the thing you got to get rid of. The future's a long time. There are a lot of stuff can happen. So if you find yourself, sleeping on a park bench, stop listening to this and go do something.
Right.
And I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean, like, actually, if you're doing this instead of your job, go get up, go do something, figure out what you're going to do next. Yeah. And it's okay. It's going to be all right. We're going to figure it out. It's the way I look at life now, is that, I'm going to keep living like I'm immortal, because that's worked so far. And, and someday I won't be. And so what? It's kind of fatalistic, but why not plan and live and strive for if everything's going to be okay? And that gets us back to the technology. There's a few that I really like right now. 5G going to change our life just in unbelievable ways that we don't know yet. And we can see the trend. We can see the difference of life today than before there were smartphones, before there were mobile phones, before there were phones. And we see that, and we can't say whether or not this is the year of 5G. Again, don't believe what they say on TV. If this is the year of 5G, or next year's the year of 5G, it's happening. It's being built. So, pretty much count on them doing something with it. Will it be as good as they're promising? Of course not. What day? Who knows? How much is it going to cost? Doesn't matter. But if you're not looking in your career and life planning as there's going to be a lot better connection, and believe it or not, they're saying that we might not have as many dropped calls, but we'll actually be able to make a phone call on these things. But the idea that everything is recorded, kept track of, all the IoT, which is, related to 5G as far as I'm concerned. You need the two go together, so that all these devices talking to each other, keeping records, and just, knowing exactly what happened. Think of the certainty that comes from blockchain. That's my current passion, is to push blockchain, because it's a distributed ledger. Some people say hyperledger, which is the IBM term for it. And, there's some other people say, well, blockchain isn't right. There's this other Ricardian contract. Doesn't matter. The trend is what is popularly called blockchain, and it's beyond crypto, way beyond crypto. And so let's see, it allows three things. It allows us to have an immutable record, so that imagine a spreadsheet where you never change the cell, or it's a database. And there are ways to lock the access to the records where they can never be seen again. I just heard a description of how you forget information that's been stored that way. It has to do with the keys and contracts, but it's stored, it's there, and we have the computing power to keep that. It's distributed, it's on a lot of computers. The cryptography holds that information together. It's blocks of records chained together. And that is how things are going to be built in the future. Will your podcast be stored on a blockchain secure location? Well, probably. Again, predicting whether it's 100% or mostly, or it's going to be used a lot. It's the latter is very much true. A lot meaning like everything we've built on the internet is going to be rebuilt in the next few years. And again, maybe not everything, but a whole lot of it. And that means jobs, and that means security, and that means some aspects of things just cease to exist. I mean, we're in a world right now where I just watched a report last night about negative interest rates, and someone was trying to explain why that was bad. Well, if I'm going to give you $100 and you're going to give me back 99 after you keep it for a while, that's not good. So, but is it? Then they talked to one guy who said, well, there's this going, and there's this idea or whatever. And if money no longer mattered, what would we do? If storing the wealth, boy, the 1%, the ones that are in trouble. If they got assets, fine. Well, they'll always do well. They'll have assets or something, but it's not about how much cash you have. It's like, how good of an idea do you have? Which brings me to AI, which is really where this all comes from, is that as we get smarter and smarter computers, AI is the nickname for it's the abbreviation of artificial intelligence, but I don't believe that's what it is anymore. It's assisted intelligence. It's machine learning. It's just a few years ago that they got machine learning to the point where the computer started learning faster than us. I have been regularly posting a tweet about Google having a machine that will write programming. And I swear that thing's 4 years old. It's an article I put up on some site a long time ago. And every time I post it, somebody comments and go, "Oh no, scary. It's going to be like,
like
some science,
the Terminator." Yeah.
Yeah, the science fiction movies, right? They go, no, it's not. It's like, I can't tell you what's going to happen, and it is possible that we're going to invent something like this and it's going to kill us all. But I refer you back to my life plan. Plan on being immortal. Now, if your job is to secure something, learn about this stuff and secure it. I don't want my data lost. But if that's not your job, be aware, but don't be crying about it. It's happening. This is all the computers have been writing their own software, inventing languages, beating the hardest, the Go game. The Jeopardy thing now is 8-9 years old. The AI is smarter than us. It's going to be. It doesn't mean that it's going to go into robots. This is not science fiction. Again, don't believe what's on TV.
Right.
It's not science fiction outcome where they get cognizant and take over. That could happen someday, but it's so far in the future that what we need to worry about more is like, are we programming AI to be biased? And I have an easy answer for that one. Let's program it to catch our bias.
Right.
There's not one AI coming after all of us. It's going to be a lot of devices doing a lot of things. I talked this morning with had quite an argument this morning with my Echo, Amazon Echo Dot that's in my bedroom. Yes, I decided that I wanted to make sure I was ready to get here, and so I told it what time to set an alarm, and it came back with missing a number. It's possible I was mumbling in my sleep. But then I said it again, and 5 minutes later, the thing went off, and I just barely got back to sleep. And what the? It hasn't been that long already. What's going on?
Right.
And so, of course, I had to turn over to look at the clock, and that was enough to wake me up. And I don't know how intelligent that is. But, mostly all it's doing is reading things in a nice voice.
Right.
But it will get a lot better very, very fast. Look at the trends that you can count on. I'll go one more, and then I'll let you get a word in edgewise. Moore's Law. For 45 years now, a little even longer, we've counted on Moore's Law. Some people say it goes back hundreds of years because the doubling of technology was not very much to begin with. But the cost of a computer